Hello everyone, welcome to my booktube channel. Today let's talk about reading slump. Now reading slump is that frustrating period in any reader's life where you can't just read a book. Even if you start reading a book, you can't finish it. Now to get out of this frustrating phase, it's important to choose right kind of books. Now what are these right kind of books? First of all, a book which is short so that you can finish reading it quickly and feel good about it. Second, the book should have good plot so that you can keep turning the pages. And third, it should not be too complicated. Your mind should not work too hard to process what you're reading. So if you keep these three things in mind, you will be able to get out of reading slump. And now I'm going to suggest 5 books that will help you come out of the reading slump. So let's get started. Okay, the first book that I have for you is this, The Little French Bookshop by Cecil Pivot. This is a book which is written in French and then translated in English. This book is very interesting. It is lovely. You know, I picked up this book because of its wonderful cover. Can you just appreciate for a moment how pretty this cover is? And that was my first impulse. I love the cover, so I picked up. The second reason why I got this book is because of the word bookshop mentioned in the title. I love to read books about books. But at the outset, I should tell you that this book has nothing to do about a bookshop, but the story revolves around a bookstore. So there is this bookstore owner called Esther. She has recently lost her father, and she and her father used to communicate by writing letters. So she decides as a tribute to her father that she should start a letter writing workshop, which she considers as a dying art. So she puts out an ad, and after that some 5 people join her workshop. All of them are different types of people. One is a businessman, one is a lonely old lady, one is a teenager, and there is one couple who are having some differences, married couple who are having some differences in their marriage. All of them come together and they start writing letters to each other to communicate. And it is always interesting to know that when you start talking to strangers, you tend to open up more, you tend to share more. And in the process, they tend to share their life stories with each other and try to help each other out. And then there is some plot twist which is also interesting, so you should definitely give it a read. It's a heartwarming book. It will make you keep turning the pages because the story is very simple, yet it's very interesting. So a perfect book to get out of your reading slump. The next book that I have for you is this, The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. I love this book. This book is one of my favorite books this year. This is by Gabriel Zevin. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I love to read books about books, and this book is a perfect one for this. Again, the setup is a bookstore, and this time we have a lot of talk about bookstore. So this is a story of Mr. A.J. Fikry, who is a 39-year-old widower who runs a bookstore called the Island Bookstore in a very remote place in the US. And he's very grumpy, he's frustrated with his life, and certain events happen in his life which make him even more frustrated. He had a very prized manuscript of a book which gets stolen, and that was his plan for early retirement, to sell that manuscript, and manuscript or a rare edition, I'm forgetting, but it was a prized book that gets stolen, and he's even more frustrated now. But one day when he comes to his shop, he finds that someone has left their 2-year-old daughter at the doorstep of his bookstore, and now he doesn't know what to do, and he ultimately starts caring for this little girl, and how that changes, that entire act of kindness changes his life. That's this book about. And you have a lot of characters, like you have the town people who are kind to him, you have another woman friend of his who visits him, and then there is a lot of other things happening. There's scandal, there's romance. It's a page turner, and there's this big plot twist that will blow your mind away. So I think you should definitely give this book a try. It's heartwarming again, and well, if you're in a reading slump, pick this book up. The third recommendation that I have for you is this book, The Rosie Project by Simpson. I'm telling you one thing, it's a warning before I even talk about this book. Do not read this book at a public place, because you are definitely going to laugh out loud and attract some eyeballs. Well, if you're okay with it, then go ahead. Well, this is just to warn you that this book is funny. It is really funny, romantic, and it has a good plot. So this is a story of Don Tillman. He is again 30 something man who has never gone on a second date because he lacks emotional quotient. He just doesn't know how to talk to ladies or any human beings for that matter. But then he has the desire to find a wife for himself, and to get a wife he starts something called as Wife Project, which is very scientific, where women have to literally answer a questionnaire and then he will decide whether they are whether they complement each other. Well, it's very complicated, but while he is doing this, he comes across this woman called Rosie, who is not at all compatible with him, yet the circumstances are such that they come together again and again, and it gets very interesting. There is also a plot twist which is very interesting. I tend to pick up books when I'm in reading slump with plot twist, so it's very interesting. But the language is really nice. This book is gripping and it's funny, like laugh out funny. So if you're in a bad mood, you can also pick this book to pick yourself up. So in that sense, it's reading slump book as well as an anti-reading slump book as well as pick yourself up book. Do give it a try. Fourth book that I have for you is The Authenticity Project by Claire Poulet. I love this book. I read this book last year. Now, how do I describe this book to you? This book is like a warm hug after a long day. Yes, it is that beautiful. And it has one of my favorite settings, and that's a cafe. I love books which are set in cafe. I don't know, it just gives me a good vibe, a good feeling. So in this book, we have this old man called Julian who is alone. He decides that he will write about himself, the truth about his life, in a green journal, and he keeps it at a cafe for someone else to pick up and write their truth in that book, and he names this entire project as the Authenticity Project. So slowly this book is then passed on to the owner's hand, then the owner writes her truth and then leaves it somewhere else. So it sets off a chain reaction, and these people then they come together, whoever is written in this book, they come together and then many things happen. So it's a very fun read. It has a lot of interesting plot points as well, and some of these things it has romance, it has scandal, it has everything in it, and it is a page turner, and you will love this book. It looks like it's quite a chunky book, but it's not. It is not. The pages will turn on its own. It's that good once you start reading it. So definitely give this book a try. And the last book that I have for you is a classic. It's And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. If you haven't read this already and you are in a reading slump, then please do pick it up. It's an amazing book. This book follows 10 people who have been invited to an isolated island by an unknown host. All these people gather there, but the host is nowhere to be seen, and they are in this big comfortable villa. On the wall of each room they find this nursery rhyme, and then suddenly one person among them is found dead. Then there is second person who is found dead, and the deaths actually follow the lines of the nursery rhyme. So they don't know who did the murder, because whether it's someone among themselves or there's someone out there, which is not likely. So it is an interesting murder mystery. I don't want to say much because you should definitely read it. I finished it in like one day because it was so interesting. I could not keep it down. So a perfect book if you're in a reading slump. So yes, these were my 5 reading recommendations for you to beat that reading slump. I hope you like this video. If you have read any of these books, please do comment and do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.